It's title time.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome back. Today I present to you my review of Super7's TMNT Ultimates line Wave 4. This wave includes fan favorites like Donatello, Casey Jones, Mondo Gecko, and Muckman with Joe Eyeball. Now the boxes for these are going to be pretty much all the same, so I'm not going to spend too much time showing you them. The only real difference is being one, the slip cover that comes on top of the window box packaging for each character has kind of a sewer lid looking design with the face of each character that you get inside the package. And two, the back of the package for each of the characters has a short little bio that details some of the characters' origins and attributes. Anyhow, let's get this show on the road by looking at arguably the most popular figure in this wave, Donatello. And with this figure, we round out the 4 turtles. So now we have the Fab Four, the lean green fighting machine. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles team is complete. Now Donatello comes with a plethora of different accessories. He comes with a whole whack of weapons, including ninja stars and his signature bow staffs, as well as an open and closed communicator and a slice of pizza. And let's not forget all of the interchangeable hands that he comes with that didn't come on the body, as well as a secondary teeth gritty head and a weapons rack that is made to look like the same kind of thing that he would have gotten back in the day when I was a kid. Up close and personal, this Donatello figure looks just as fantastic as the other 3 turtles that we've reviewed on this channel, Leonardo, Mikey, and Raph, with a bright yellow chest and almost arguably brown skin. It's more like a really dark brownish green color, which is fairly close to the original you'll see a little bit later. It's nice that you've got that updated kind of modern head sculpt to go on this body, which looks really great. And a head sculpt that's been designed to look like the classic Donatello head sculpt, with the white triangular pizza slice shaped eyes and all of its many gritting teeth. This Donatello in hand looks just as fantastic as I had hoped it would, with simulated leather for the straps there. A very updated look to the belt, but yet very classic at the same time. Like, you got these straps that hang down here below his belt buckle with the D on it, and you've also got the straps that connect over the shoulders on the back here with the stowage, the place to put his bow staff. But I always like the fact that they tried to go with that original kind of look, but also made the turtle shell, as with the rest of the figure, look a lot more detailed. The really subtle details in this figure make it worthwhile too, like the fact that his fingernails have been painted. There is some subtle shading on Donatello's chest there, it's not all one color. And the same with the body sculpt, there is some subtle shading going on there. One thing that I like about the new Donatello compared to the classic one it's made to emanate is that with the classic one, you just got the knee pads that were, they look like basic knee pads. Whereas these have been updated so they have the 3 pads on each knee and the 3 on each elbow. I prefer that look. As for how articulated he is, you'll find that he has the exact same articulation points as the rest of his TMNT brethren. The rounded hinges in the groin, plenty of roundy motion like that. You do actually have some waist movement inside of the torso there. You've got a rounded hinge in the armpits that he can flick his arms up about that. Full rotation at the bicep, single jointed elbows that, if I am honest, is kind of pitiful. That's not even 90 degrees. It rotates here at the elbow, which is good, but you know me. If it rotates and has 90 degrees, I'll take it, but that's not 90 degrees. You've also got rotation here at the wrist, with each hand having a various place for a hinge. Donnie, just like his turtle brethren, also has some movement in the head here. It's actually double ball jointed. There's a ball joint down here and there's a ball joint up here, and so it does enable for an okay amount of articulation. Not super great, not super terrible. The knees follow along with the elbows being fairly, you can't really do a lot with them. There's, a fair amount of articulation I wish that they had. The hinges up top here, and then there's also rotation. And of course the foot is attached with a rounded hinge that is built right into the bottom of his foot there and his ankle with an ankle pivot. So honestly, I do kind of wish that Donatello had just a little bit more articulation. It would have been kind of perfect if he had some kind of butterfly up here in the shoulders, and he really needs the double jointies for the elbows and the knees because he's a Ninja Turtle. And next, why don't we look at Mondo Gecko? This dude is killer on a skateboard, man. This figure here that comes with some extra hands and extra head and his thrashing skateboard is a great example of why I love this action figure line so much. When compared with the original Mondo Gecko from way back when, you can see that they've really tried to capture as much of the old school look as possible while enlarging, updating, and re-sculpting into something that is entirely new. The color scheme for Mondo Gecko, the yellow, the purple, the reds, on top of that green scaly lizard skin with the various elbow and knee pads, purple hat on top, looks fantastic. This is such a fantastically designed character in the first place. And if I remember correctly, Mondo Gecko was one of the first non-turtle characters that I got when I was collecting these as a kid. And the skull that has been stamp painted on his shirt looks really, really nice as well. The initial face sculpt for Mondo Gecko has his big braces, teeth, mouth closed, with the tongue hanging out the side, just like the original figure. Also, here is a close-up look at the secondary head, with the mouth open and the tongue hanging out. When I see this head sculpt, I automatically remember his earlier comic book appearances in the Archie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Adventures comics. The gas-powered skateboard that Mondo Gecko rides is very much like the original. I don't have the original one anymore, I just have the figure, but dude, this skateboard looks awesome. What a fantastic reproduction of the original skateboard, but of course upgraded and modern and bigger. Up close and personal, every craggle and crevice of this figure has been either painted well or sculpted well or both. Well, really both. Again, this is one of my favorite action figure lines that Super 7 or really anyone has made. This is one of the lines that I am in this one for the long haul. I really, really love what they're doing here. The articulation here for old Mondo Gecko, inside the torso here, you can see that there is a ball joint right up inside the shirt. Mine is really, really tight, but that doesn't mean that you're not going to get a full range of motion. That just means that it's, you know, it's nice and stiff. I'm sure if you really wanted to get him into all kinds of poses involving him bending down and up, you could. Now, I do want to warn you that the range of motion is not the greatest, but it will do 360, and the waist also has a 360 swivel. The arms for this guy, you can see there's the rounded hinge in the armpits there, and they go all the way around. They go up about that, nothing much more than that, and they go up about that. And then you've also got, with these figures, you've got your elbow joint that will do 90 degrees and also rotate side to side, as well as a rounded hinge in the wrist here. His head articulation's really not that super great. You'll take note of it. Like, really, you're looking at the sum total of its range of motion here. And then when you get down to his groin area here, you got that rounded hinge, and there's actually a pretty darn good range of motion there. There's also what you would consider the equivalent of a thigh swivel, along with, let's look at these knee joints from behind here. What does he have? Those are single jointed knees, and how much will they crunch? That's not too terrible, I suppose. That's, you know, I suppose that could be worse. About average, I guess I would say. And then we come to his feet, which on the inside of the shoes there, he's got little hinges, and they crunch up nice too. I like the fact that the shoes kind of look really big and loose on him like that. And of course, they are going to have an ankle pivot. So, you know, as with the rest of the Super 7 TMNT figures, and we're going to see this with the rest of the wave too, they're not always the most articulated, but I don't buy these because they're the most articulated. I buy them because they are certainly more articulated than the originals, and because they look like the originals. Okay, and now let's turn our attention towards Casey Jones. We can see that this guy comes with a whole armory of swaggery, sports equipment galore. Inside of his magical multi-purpose golf bag of fun, you'll find a hockey goalie stick, a golf club, a baseball bat, and then two other, I'm not exactly sure those are baseball bats. And then to go with that hockey stick, he's got 3 hockey pucks. Two of them look like they've seen better days. And of course, Casey Jones comes with the obligatory interchangeable hands. And let's not forget that he's got a weapons rack, which is cleverly actually a goalie net that has all of the exact same weapons that are painted. They're a greenish blue. And going from the toes all the way up to the tippy top of his messy black blue highlighted hair, we can see that they really tried to make this guy look like the original, as they do with the rest of the figures in this series. Only this guy, he can stand up straight now. Casey Jones' face sculpt with his hockey mask, mine looks to be just a little tad bit sloppier than I would like, but you know what? The toys we had when we were kids were quite often painted just as messy, if not messier than this. I will mention though that the shoulder pad that he comes with actually looks a little bit maybe overpainted or sloppy. Maybe not so much in the back, but definitely in the front, around this area. But overall, it is a fantastically sculpted character. I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I knew that this was a thing back then, but I never really understood why it was a thing. Maybe it was a football thing. You know, like you didn't want to get the bottom of your shirt grabbed or something like that. I'm not entirely sure because, well, I never did it. I can tell you that visually this is not a good look, having such a wide space there. I feel like that would have been better if it was filled in. Now we can see here that Casey Jones, although he has apparently great taste in footwear because he's got a pair of green Chucks, he also never did learn how to tie his shoes properly because that one's untied. I wonder how well he's articulated. Let's start with the waist, since that's the most noticeable articulation point. It's loosening up. Okay, so we can see that this is a ball joint that, well, you know, that's got better than no motion, I suppose. And what about up here? Well, you'd think there'd be some articulation, but there's actually not. This part of his torso is fitted to his abdomen. And then as far as Casey Jones' noodle, well, you can see that there is some range of motion there. Not as good as I myself and probably a lot of people would like. It's fairly restricted, actually. In the arms, you've got the rounded hinge. Both arms have it, obviously, but this guy right here, this shoulder pad, is going to get in the way a lot. So where there's a full range here that really can only go up to about there anyway, a full T, you're not going to get a full range because of that piece of shoulder armor there. That pauldron is so in the way. There's also a full 360 bicep swivel, single jointed elbows that do just over 90 degrees. Perhaps a little bit more. Yeah, we'll just call that 90 degrees. But they've also got rotation back and forth like that. Not double jointed, single, but they do have the back and forth rotation with the wrist having a rounded hinge. Casey Jones's, wrist wraps, they definitely get in the way of some of the up and down motion. I mean, there's more than nothing. It's also not super great. And then if we just look down here at Casey Jones's groin, crotch portion where the legs connect to the body, rounded hinge there, and there's a lot of this though. I really like that. That is definitely really cool. And there's a great range of motion for these legs. I'm always really impressed by how much we get from the upper thighs of these Super7 TMNT fingers, the TMNT fingers. And the knees, they get not quite 90 degrees. I thought that we were going to get at least 90, but we don't. They do this though. They got some rotating action, and then the shoes, his feet there, he doesn't appear to be wearing any socks. His shoes probably stink. They go about like that. They got a pivot, and they got a hinge, and no toe articulation. Nice treads though. And finally, let's move on to Muckman and Joe Eyeball. Muckman comes with Joe Eyeball and the garbage can that Joe Eyeball hangs around in, as well as a soda pop can looking gun. I don't know what that is. It's a gun of some kind. And also, finally, 2 interchangeable hands. Joe Eyeball is really fantastic looking. I love this little guy. He looks like a little grobbly that would hang out under your bed and come out at night to scavenge for food and dust bunnies to eat. And I love the little backpack garbage can that he comes in too. The Muckman figure is darn near a perfect interpretation of the character when you compare him to the original version, which I don't have, but you should be looking at a picture side by side with it by now. And Muckman, he's always made a great character. You know, he's always reminded me of the Toxic Avenger. Or is it the Toxic Crusader? I think it's both, actually. And this guy is head to toe covered in trash and bugs, and he's made of guck, practically. He's just a really gross-looking dude. I like how you can actually read his old New York sanitation worker name badge. Garson Grunge. This figure for me really is a case of being surprised that I was going to like it as much as I do. This is, you know, I'm just blown away. This is such a fantastic looking sculpt. He's got the sewer lid stuck to his foot with a perfectly good slice of pizza, by the way. I would have eaten that.
Nice.
Yeah, and a can of soda. Well, geez. I like how you can see his wrist bones through all the guck. But he has flowers growing on him too, which also makes me kind of think of the Swamp Thing. See? He's got toadstools or whatever growing on him. Arguably one of the best parts of this figure is the fact that he's wearing a banana peel as a hat. Great choice in battle armor, bro. And close up, the face sculpt is really, really cool. He's got the bug eyes sticking out, along with his tongue that's also sticking out. He's got his tentacly mustache and beard. The garbage can for Muckman just fits into a spot in his back, like that. Well, I made that sound a lot more simpler than it actually is to get it in there. It's actually a tight fit. Let me try again. The garbage can actually fits in the space in his back. You just do like that, and you just shove it. Oh, wow. Okay, well, I'm not trying to take that out of there again. There it stays. And then, of course, you could just stick Joe Eyeball in the garbage can, and there you go. Yep. Joe Eyeball looks like he's having a blast up there on Muckman's back. Muckman gets to do all the hard work, and Joe just rides around. He gets a free ride. So the next question that be is, how articulated is old Mucky Poo here? Well, let's find out, because I honestly don't know. Oh no! His top of his head came off, and his brains and the banana came off. Put him back on there. I wonder if those are supposed to be glued in place. Unless, you can put your weed in it. Just put the top back on there. Right, let's go back to what oh yes, the head. So the head is actually fairly articulated. That's, you know, more than I thought that old Mucky was going to get. Up, down, all around. It's a tight little ball in there. He gets more of this kind of thing. Oh, the top of his head came off again. I really don't think that's supposed to happen. Or is it? Wait a minute. If I had slime, I would put the slime in the top of his head, and it would come out of his mouth, and that's why his tongue is sticking out. Wait a minute, wasn't that what the original one did too?
He's bugging Muckman, the mutated sewer worker, and his little mutie pal Joe Eyeball to join Shredder's evil Foot Clan. Muckman is just oozing under the pressure.
Well, darn it. Why didn't this guy come with slime? Now, as for the rest of his articulation, it remains to be seen. There's a rounded hinge in the arm, and that is what you get, nothing more. And it's the same thing here, except for this arm does seem to get a little bit more of an articulated upward motion. There's no bicep swivel on either one, and I'll take it, I don't care. The figure is actually cooler looking without it. I'd rather have the sculpt over the function there. And he has single jointy elbows. It rotates back and forth, kind of stopped by the blobby thing. And the same thing, full 360 here with about 90 degrees there. Of course, we can see the rounded hinge. We know what it's going to do, what we're going to get from it. He does have a waist swivel, so there is articulation down here. Obviously, torso, nyet. No articulation. And then we look down here to old Muckman's crotchular area, and we can see that you got the two rounded hinges right here, as we've come to expect from Super 7, as do they articulate the legs. And you've got a really good amount of rotative 360 motion there, which is fan-friggin-tastic. And then you've also got, wait, which way does the leg go? Like that, okay. It's hard to tell, there's just so much stuff everywhere. And there's a fair amount of just articulation all around with these guys. What about the knees? Well, for the knees, you'll see a single jointed that goes bibbidi-bop back and forth like that. It's weird that there's so much knee left over for it to go up like that, but it really doesn't do that much back. Like, it would have been kind of fun if it went just a little bit more. And I think that the other leg might actually have... Which way is it supposed to go? That way. Maybe, yeah, it's got a little bit more articulation as far as how far in the leg can crunch. I think I've got his leg the right way. That looks like it might be a knee bone. I'm not entirely sure. Then what does he have for feet? Well, you can see here, a lot easier than the other foot. You got a rounded hinge with a pivot for this foot. And then over here, you've got, well, that's just a mess. But you can see there's a round ball there that actually will pivot. And that'll be 360, as well as a hinge and an ankle. So it rotates here, and it rotates here, and it's also got a rounded hinge there. So this guy's articulation is not super great, but you know what? I think that it's a fairly reasonable, fairly valiant attempt at getting some form of articulation on such a big, beastly, bulky figure. So what do I think about Wave 4 of Super7's TMNT Ultimates line, consisting of Muckman and Joe Eyeball, Mondo Gecko, Donatello, and Casey Jones? Well, I can tell you, off the bat, I've really enjoyed this wave. I couldn't wait for this wave to come out. For one, it completed the Turtles. 2, it also gave me 2 more of my favorite characters, Mondo Gecko and Casey Jones. And 3, I've been so unbelievably pleasantly surprised by the visuals and the sculpt of Muckman and Joe Eyeball that this wave has been a really big pleasure for me to review. I've really enjoyed this. I ordered mine through Big Bad Toy Store. I'm sure you can probably still pick these guys up through some online retailers at this point. I know that some people order theirs right through Super7, but I generally have to do my pre-orders in such a way that I don't have to pay until they ship, on account of me always being broke from buying figures. But anyway, that's all I have to say for now. I think I've touched on pretty much everything, so hopefully you found this review to be an interesting, entertaining, maybe even a little bit insightful wasted time for the afternoon, or whenever it is that you watched it. If you did, I would really appreciate it if you haven't subscribed yet, if you hit the button and subscribe to the channel, and maybe even possibly ding the bell. And you know what? If it's not too much to ask, maybe you could tell your friends about me too. Maybe they'd like my flavor of action figure reviews. Who knows? But anyway, yeah, I gotta go. Have yourself a fantastic, super awesome day, everybody. Take care.